Thank you. You really are fantastic. I mean, I am totally speechless, and that doesn't happen too many times. Some people might wish that it could be a permanent affliction. But you really are just amazing human beings. I'm no longer as young as I look. I have to tell you that a few years ago, I'm sure you've heard me tell you the story, but a few years ago, they named a school after me in a small little village in the Netherlands. That's not the important part of the story. The school was celebrating 400 years, and there were great celebrations in the village, and Leah and I went to the village to celebrate with them, and a little girl, when we arrived in the village, came up to me and said, "Were you here when the school started?" I did think I was decrepit, but I hadn't thought it was quite so obvious. And it's a long time ago. I mean, can you imagine? I mean, I thought I was still a spring chicken then. Oh, and by the way, they since thought better of it, and they've renamed the school. But what does one say? How can you begin to express what is inexpressible? I really wish, I mean, that you could open our hearts, that you were the kind of surgeon who would open up our hearts and look inside and see just how deeply filled to overflowing they are with deep gratitude. I come on behalf of millions, really, but especially on behalf of those who are now occupying 10,000 beautiful, attractive homes. I come on behalf of them to say to you, fantastic people, who have a wonderful memory because you remember where you come from. You remember your famine and your poverty, and now you are a star turn. You are the cat's whiskers in many ways. And I come to say totally inadequately, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. In one of his how many houses? Homes? Don't be like Mr. McCain in America, who didn't know how many houses he had. But this is someone who could say, well, I made it. I came out of poverty. I've made it. And, well, tough luck for those who are still trying to make it. He said nothing of the sort. And you heard John here describe how he has sometimes neglected his own businesses. Because incredibly, he has given himself to God and said, look here, God, I'm willing for you to use me. And God says, now look at that guy, eh? Isn't he just an incredible human being? Niall, we really will never be able to say thank you enough to you. Those many people here, Hout Bay, I mean, all over the place here, you've already left an indelible mark. And we will never, never, they say it's ineffable. It's something that can really not be put into words. It's like trying to describe a red rose, really, to a blind person. It's like trying to describe a Beethoven symphony to someone who is deaf. We will never be able to express what it must mean to those children, to their parents, that in 7 days' time, they are going to walk into a home with a front door that locks, and they walk in, there's a ceiling, and they won't, for a long time they won't believe it. They won't believe it, and it is largely, well, yes, it is you. Oh, no, madam, I'm speaking. And remember, I'm an Archbishop. I have a hotline. Dear friends, there is one wonderful thing I discovered. I have a magic wand. When I wave it over people, it's quite extraordinary, you know. When I wave it over people like you, it turns you into instant South Africans, you know. And so, and now I say, fellow South Africans, let's give Niall, as the Americans would say a few years ago, a real humdinger of a standing ovation. Come on! And now, you extraordinary volunteers. No, sorry, and you revert to your normal, shy Irish self. You volunteers, those of you who came 6 years ago, successive years, I mean, people must think that you are crazy. What are you doing? You pay your own fare, you raise money to support yourselves, and what are you going to do? And then you work. I was going to say, in the old days, we were in England once, and there was a lady who was supposed to come and fetch another bishop from Lesotho, one of those countries. And she came, she was late. And she came, she rushed and said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. We were working like Trojans." I mean, she was very quick off her feet, I was going to say. Well, you come all the way from there, and you run the danger of having a complexion like mine. I mean, in the baking sunshine, you really are crazy. And we, I said, I always repeat myself. But can you imagine what God must be feeling looking at Mumbai? What must God be feeling? I'm glad I'm not God. Really. Because all of these are my children. God looks at Zimbabwe and says, yeah, well, I did give them freedom to choose, and I can't take that freedom away, even if it means they're going to make a real bosh up of things. I mean, look at Darfur, Gaza. I mean, it must be quite a thing to be God. And if I had God's power, which is that God holds us in the palm of God's hands, and every single moment it is because God breathes God's breath into me that I can stand. I can exist, and I can exist even when I'm saying, God, I hate you. I'm able to say that because God enables me to do that. I mean, if I had that kind of power, I mean, I would just snuff out, all these troublesome things. Pyum, Mugabe, pyum. Pyum. I mean, those of you who are parents know just how many times you have sat there crying quietly, and you can't do anything. You just have to let them. The choice is theirs. And all you have is the ache and the pain. And our God cries. God cries. But not always. Isn't it fantastic? Because there are then times when God says, just look at those crazy Irish. 2,000 of them. Look at what they're doing. And God says, and God begins to smile. God begins to smile through the tears. You put a smile on God's face. You are just fantastic, fantastic human beings. And now, I am converting you. Irish, instant South Africans. Now, fellow South Africans, let's give these crazy, lovable Irish a real standing ovation that just takes the roof off. Come on, let's go! Thank you. I have to tell you, a few years ago I was with a number of young people in Australia, and I said, the trouble with some of us is that we don't celebrate who we are. Let's give ourselves a wonderful applause. And they nearly took the roof off. And then I said, well, let's give God a standing ovation. And without thinking, when they finished, I said, thank you. Thank you.